Shalom again, brethren. I'm sharing another lesson study with you all, and I want us to be mindful that no matter what happens, unrighteousness will not prevail. The name of this lesson study is called Yahuah Moves in Justice and Judgments. The lesson study begins in Genesis chapter 18, verse 17, and it reads, "And Yahuah said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahuah, to do justice and judgment, that Yahuah may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him." So we can recognize the operative words here in these verses: justice and judgment. Abraham's seed, Israel, that is us, we are going to bring forth justice and judgment on this earth. So now we go to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 39 to 41. And it reads, "See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no Eloah with me. I kill, and I make alive. I wound, and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven, and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword, and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and will reward them that hate me." Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 to verse 11. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yahuah. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it." If we take a deep, thoughtful study on what Yahuah has said here, we can truly recognize throughout the scriptures and in the pages of history that no matter what has happened in the past, Yahuah's justice and his judgments were always there. They were always prevailing. They were always present. There's no escaping Yahuah's justice and his judgment. And we, as the children of Israel, need to recognize that we are the ones that have to take up this banner of justice and judgment in righteousness. The lesson study continues. Isaiah chapter 24, verses 1. "Behold, Yahuah maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower. as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for Yahuah hath spoken this word. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore have the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh. The myrrh of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The myrrh of the land is gone. Brothers and sisters, we can see that this is demonstrative of Yahuwah's moving in justice and in judgments. Let us continue to see where this is going to carry us. Isaiah chapter 24, verses 12. In the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. When thus it shall be in the midst of the land among the people, there shall be as the shaking of an olive tree, and as the gleaning of grapes when the vintage is done. Brothers and sisters, in Yahuwah's justice and judgment, there is always shaking. And we can see that the earth presently is shaking. There's so much atrocities, and there's so much desolation, so much pestilence that is taking place. But we need to bear in mind that justice and judgment is of Yahuah. When we read in Haggai chapter 2, and I believe it's verse 5 to verse 7, it says, according to the word that I covenanted with you when ye came out of Egypt, so my spirit remaineth among you. Fear ye not. Yahuwah's spirit is still dwelling with Israel. Of course, we know that that is talking about those of us that are listening to the promptings of his Ruach HaKodesh, that are living according to his laws, his statutes, his judgments, and his commandments. Verse 6 goes on to say, for thus saith Yahuah of hosts, yet once, it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens, and the earth, and the sea, and the dry land, and I will shake all nations. And the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith Yahuah of hosts. So despite the evil that is going on in the world, and the evil that is presently going on in Israel, we still need to recognize that Yahuah is still the Eloah of hosts. He is still the one that will bring forth justice and judgment. We know that we are supposed to perform righteous acts. As the priest of the earth, we know that we are established over the nations. We will distribute the wealth of this earth with equity. We know that. However, presently, as we are in the transformation process of getting ourselves right before Yahuah, we have to recognize that we still have to be righteous we have to recognize that we have to follow the protocol that Yahuah has established for us to follow. We cannot allow injustice and unrighteousness to prevail. Once we see it, once we know of it, once we hear of it, we must call it out for what it is. Because in the end, that is how Yahuah is going to establish us. He's going to establish us as a nation of righteousness, a nation of justice, a nation of judgment, a nation of truth. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 14 continues to read like this. They shall lift up their voice, they shall sing for the majesty of Yahuah. They shall cry aloud from the sea. Wherefore glorify ye Yahuah in the fires, even the name of Yahuah Eloah of Israel in the midst of the isles of the sea. From the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, even glory to the righteous. But I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Yea, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth. And it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit, and he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahuah shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together, as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited. The moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when Yahuah of hosts shall reign in Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. Brothers and sisters, Israel, our mindset should be that we are the living servants of Yahuah. For this cause, we ought to be displaying the characters or the character of servitude to Yahuah. We have to constantly bear in mind. We have to constantly bear in mind that we must stand firm in his word. For he hath said to the righteous, fear ye not. When we read in Isaiah chapter 26, verse 1 to verse 6, it says, in that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city, salvation of Eloah, a point for walls and bulwarks. Open ye the gates, that the righteous nation which keepeth the truth may enter in. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. Trust ye in Yahuah forever, for in Yahuah is everlasting strength. For he bringeth down them that dwell on high, the lofty city, he layeth it low, even to the ground. he bringeth it even to the dust. The foot shall tread it down, even the feet of the poor, and the steps of the needy. Brothers and sisters, when we read this, we can clearly see the confidence that the righteous must have during these times of the innocents being continued to be murdered, and the leaders that are supposed to be leaders are hiding behind facades of evil. We need to recognize that the truth will prevail. Wickedness shall perish, but we, the seed of Abraham, we have to perform justice and judgment just as well as love, the law, the statutes, the judgments, the commandments, and the covenants. Brothers and sisters, this is ultimately what Yahuah will require of us. When we are going to bring forth justice and judgment, we cannot judge according to what we see and what we hear. It has to be based upon Yahuah's laws, his statutes, his judgments, and his commandments. Now, this is a little quote that I'm going to read to you, or share rather with you, from Matthew's chapter 20, verse 32 to 33. And Yahushua stood still and called them and said, What will ye that I do unto you? This is the story about the two blind men that Yahuah questioned them with regards to what they wanted him to do for them. Hear what they said. Verse 33, they say unto him, Adonai, that our eyes may be opened. So Yahushua had compassion on them and touched their eyes, and immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. We need to recognize that Yahushua has opened up these brothers' eyes. However, we also need to recognize that in keeping the laws, the statutes, the judgments, and the commandments, our eyes will be opened. When our eyes are opened, we must continue to follow Yahushua, not man's way of justice, because man's way of justice, man's way of judgment is wrong. And ultimately, man's way of justice and judgment will perish. When we read Matthew's chapter 21, the whole chapter, but I focus more on chapter 21 from verses 1 to about verse 22. Here we can see that Yahushua has been displaying Yahuah's justice and judgment. Brothers and sisters, pardon the way that I'm reading. It has been brought to my attention of an event that has taken place in Israel. The brothers and sisters that are dwelling in the United States of America. And it has been grievous to my spirit. So you may find that in this lesson study, my voice is a little bit downed and more on the emotional side. However, I'm conscious of the Eloah, the Elohim that I'm serving. I'm conscious that his justice and his judgment will prevail. So take heed and hearken to the words that the Spirit, that the Ruach HaKodesh is revealing to you and prompting your spirit to move by. So like I said, in Matthew chapter 21, verse 1 to 22, Yahushua has been displaying Yahuwah's justice and judgments. When we continue to read from verses 23 on down to the 24th chapter, we again read Yahushua's interaction. We read of Yahushua's interaction with the chief priest and the elders of the people, and also the masses of the people. But in sharing this lesson study on Yahuwah's justice and judgments, I draw your attention now to St. Matthew's chapter 24 and verse 1. And it reads, And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple. And Yahushua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So here in this discourse, Yahushua is telling them, look, you see these buildings here? Not one stone is going to be left upon another. And we know that Yahushua cannot lie. So hence we recognize that that wall that the synagogue of Satan's servants are bowing to and sticking praise in between, we know that that wall cannot be, and that wall is not any remnants of the temple that Yahushua said would fall. So we know that lies that are being told by the adversary and his imps, we know that those lies will be revealed. Just as well as the lies that are being told and perpetuated in Israel, those lies will be revealed. Here in Matthew chapter 24, the discourse between Yahushua and his disciples is for him to reveal to them the signs of his coming and of the end of the world. Verse 3, And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So Yahushua now is going to explain to them when these stones are going to be destroyed, when Jerusalem is going to be destroyed, and he's going to be explaining to them when shall be the sign of his coming and of the end of the world. St. Matthew's chapter 24 verses 37. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Just like we have read in the book of Isaiah, where we see that Yahuah is the one who is shaking the earth, let us be awakened from slumber, from the darkness of that night, and let us see what Yahuah is doing. Matthew chapter 24 verse 50. It reads, The Adonai of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Brothers and sisters, again, we can recognize that Yahuah, he moves in justice and in judgments. Let us not be caught in unrighteousness. Let us not be caught committing unjust acts and fulfilling unrighteous judgments. When we continue in Matthew's, in particular now the book of the chapter, the 25th chapter, verse 1, it says, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps, and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them that sell, and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came. And they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut." Now I want us to recognize that this door was shut, and it was Yahushua that shut this door. Let us not be caught being the 5 foolish virgins. Let us be like the 5 wise virgins, brothers and sisters. Verse 10, it says, "Again, and while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut." Verse 11 reads, "And afterward also came the other virgins, those foolish virgins, saying, Adonai, Adonai, open to us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not." Brothers and sisters, as we would have read in Genesis chapter 18, verse 17 to verse 19, we are Abraham's seed, and we must proclaim justice and judgment in order for this earth and the wealth of this earth to be distributed equitably. Israel have to step up to the calling that is proclaimed on them. That is us. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the sun. That is our purpose. That is why Yahuah has made us a nation of priests, a kingdom of priests. We cannot deviate. We cannot be troubled and overwhelmed by the sorrows of our hearts. Yahuah's righteousness, Yahuah's justice, Yahuah's judgment will be established. In love, in fear, and in righteousness, we must follow the promptings of Yahuah's Ruach HaKodesh. We must not grieve the Ruach HaKodesh. We must not cover up things that we know that are injustice. We need to step up. Justice and judgment begins first at the house of Yasharal. Let not our emotions and our sadnesses about events overpower us, but let rather the Ruach HaKodesh guide us in truth and judgment and justice based upon Yahuah's prompting of us to do his will. Revelations chapter 18, verse 16 to verse 20. John wrote down what he was shown, and he also wrote down what he heard, because this is what he was commanded to do. Let's read it. Revelation chapter 18, verse 16. And saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, and all the company in ships, and sailors, as many as traded by sea, stood afar off. Verse 18 reads, And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her coastlines. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Eloah have avenged you on her. So we can see that even though unrighteous judgments and injustice prevails, we can see that it is Yahuah and Yahuah alone that is shaking the earth. We can recognize that Yahuah, though he tarry, he is the one that is still in control. Brothers and sisters, we will be taken care of as long as we come together. O nation not desired. As long as we come together in Yahuwah's covenants, his laws, his statutes, his judgments, his commandments, his love, as long as we bring forth justice and judgments, Yahuah will be with us. On that note, I end this lesson study. However, I am sincerely sympathetic, and I empathize with the family of the sister Joy Morgan. That said, I will continue to share the lesson studies, and I will continue to follow the promptings of Yahuwah's Ruach HaKodesh. Brethren, let us be found righteous. Shalom, Yasharah.